Hi guys, my name is Matt Cynner. I'm a musician from Melbourne, Victoria, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about open mic nights. I'm very passionate about music and I'm very passionate about performing, and I've wanted to make a video like this for a while now because, like many other musicians out there, I've gotten my start from performing at open mic nights. Along the way, I've gained confidence and stage presence, and I've developed professional relationships and friendships by exploring different venues and different crowds. I've also learned how to organize and host open mics, which has led me to organizing gigs as well. So what is an open mic? An open mic is where a venue has an open stage set up for artists to perform and showcase their talent in a short time span. Whether it be musicians performing as solo, duo, or trio acts, generally acoustic or keyboard and piano players, to comedians telling jokes, and even poets sharing their poetry. Open mics are good for any artists that are either starting off their creative journey to gain experience on stage and present themselves in front of an audience, or even to professional or semi-professional artists who are either testing out new material or trying to promote their upcoming gigs. Open mics are also a good business strategy for venues to organize as a way to attract new followers and clientele. The types of venues that generally host and organize open mics are going to be places like bars, cafes, restaurants, small music venues, and even nightclubs. For the purposes of this video, however, I will only be talking about attending an open mic as a musician. If you are a comedian, feel free to leave a joke in the comment section, and if you are a poet, please feel free to leave one of your poems in the comment section as well. Some of these tips may be useful to you too. So what is the difference between an open mic and a gig? Usually an open mic has a longer list of performers that can range from amateurs to professionals, and their set times are usually limited to about 15 to 20 minutes. They're generally unpaid performances, and the styles of music and the types of musicians that attend open mics are usually all over the board, but primarily acoustic artists or even keyboard and piano players. Occasionally you will find singers with backing tracks attending these open mics as well. Gigs, on the other hand, gigs are where musicians play sets longer than 30 to 45 minutes. They're generally paid performances, and in some cases it's just one act performing at the venue for the entire night, or they can sometimes have between 2 to 5 supporting acts depending on the type of event that's being organized. Now that we understand the differences, I'm going to dive into my 5 personal tips for attending an open mic. Tip number 1. Do a little bit of research on the venue and the open mic. Find out if the open mic is specifically for musicians, how their booking schedule works, what type of venue it is, and what type of sound system and equipment they have. It's also useful to find out what type of audience and clientele the venue generally attracts, just to see if your material will gain their attention. Some venues do have a mixed and open crowd where they just want to be entertained by anything that's happening on stage. Some can unfortunately have a very dull audience that doesn't want to pay attention to anything on stage. And sometimes, funny enough, it can be as divisive, as some audiences will only want to listen to originals and some audiences would only want to listen to covers. As musicians, it's always a good idea to have a mixture of covers and originals in your repertoire. Me personally, I like to start off with a cover or two just to sort of see where the audience is at and to sort of give them an idea of what my personal style is about, and then I like to play my originals afterwards. Tip number 2. Be prepared before attending the open mic. Sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised that even a regular open mic attendee doesn't always come prepared and doesn't always bring the necessary equipment for their set. Not always a big deal, but if you are attending a very busy open mic, it can potentially cause delays to their schedule, and it could limit your time to performing on stage as well. As musicians, we generally put in a lot of time and effort into practicing our craft and working really hard on our songs, but some of us are not as always gear savvy or tech savvy as we like to think we are, and we're not always aware of what the venue can accommodate for us. If you're a singer and guitarist, it will be essential for you to bring your own guitar leads, especially if you're using a pedal board. Sometimes a guitar amp will be present at these open mics, but there's no harm in bringing your own as well. Have your spare guitar strings ready, your guitar picks, your capo, and your guitar strap. Avoid bringing drum kits, as they do take up too much space in the venue and they do take up too much time to set up. They're generally not going to be worth it for open mics, especially since you're only going to have a limited time to perform. Now, there are some dedicated music venues which will already have a house kit in place, and if that's the case, feel free to bring your own drumsticks. Cajones can also be acceptable as well. And of course, as the title open mic does suggest, the venue does have microphones, but bringing your own dynamic microphone is always an ideal option. Tip number 3, get to know the organizers, the venue, and the crowd. If you're showing up to the venue for the first time, it's always a good idea to walk up to the host of the open mic and introduce yourself. Talk about your music and your setup so that they can easily assist you. Sometimes the hosts can do their best to make things more convenient and more comfortable for you, especially if you are nervous about performing. Getting to know other musicians is always fun, and it should never feel like a job or an obligation. Being a friendly and likable person is always essential at these types of places, especially because there's so much to benefit and to gain from just building friendships at open mics. It's also good for networking, promoting, and exposure. Getting to know the venue and the organizers is also essential. If they really like your music and if they really like your personality, it may even score you a gig on a separate night where you get to play longer and potentially get paid. Tip number 4. Be respectful of the people attending and organizing the open mic, and be respectful to the venue. A comment on a fellow musician's performance is always appreciated and encouraging, especially if it's helpful to the musician's ability to perform. But be modest about the compliment that you give them, especially in front of other musicians. It's not always a good thing to tell them,
"You're the best act tonight. Everyone else was shit."
It makes other musicians feel uncomfortable, and some probably haven't been in the game long enough to handle that type of criticism. The audience's reaction to how good a performer was will be enough to say, and adding a comment like that will not make you look good. If you like to tell them how good they were in private, that will be a more appropriate option. Same as calling them out and giving them criticism while they're on stage. No one is obligated to sit and watch somebody that they don't enjoy. And you know, sometimes when the audience does walk out in the middle of someone's set, it's not always because they're not enjoying what they're doing. Sometimes it's just a coincidence, and sometimes, unfortunately, it's not. Unless the muso is having an obvious technical issue with their equipment, such as microphone keeps dropping in and out, or their guitar lead is not plugged in properly, which is causing a lot of feedback through the speakers, or if they're just blatantly being rude, aggressive, and disrespectful. Critiquing their performance while they're on stage is not only inappropriate, despite how helpful you think your opinion may be, but it also embarrasses the musician, and it doesn't make you look good. Telling them in private may be a suitable option to go for if you do have good communication skills and if you have developed a good relationship with that muso, but be mindful of how the conversation steers. Don't discuss major political issues on stage.
I think we should all really come together. We know it's time. Tasmania needs to declare war.
All guys, but I'll be voting for Johnny Sins to be president.
At open mics, you'll find different musos from all walks of life, and you'll encounter people with different views and opinions. It may be easy to do so at a gig that you're headlining, as you're more likely to attract an audience that's more aligned with your beliefs and values and all that kind of stuff. But at an open mic, it's a little bit harder to get away with, as they are designed to be more inclusive environments, and you will find people with different backgrounds. Saying thanks to the venue and the organizers is always a good thing to do, whether you're saying it to them on stage or even if you're telling them privately. It's always good to give a compliment and positive feedback to the venue. What's never a good thing to do, however, is having an ego and treating the venue staff and the organizers as if they were beneath you simply because you have a talent, therefore demanding more time to perform your songs on stage.
Now y'all motherfuckers best give me more time to play some songs, because I'm the best musician here.
Or even demanding more free drinks from the bar. Venues simply won't tolerate that kind of behavior, no matter how good of a musician you think you are. Don't get too intoxicated. I get it, we're all musicians and we all dream about having that, rock star life of performing and partying all the time, but like all things, you must do them responsibly, and it may impact your performance and people's perception of you if you are not careful. And finally, tip number 5, and probably the most important tip of them all, is to have fun. You know, musicians go to these open mics for various reasons, to build friendships and to entertain people and to have a good time. It's a good starting point for a lot of people who are wanting to get into the entertainment industry or who just simply want to do this as a hobby. You know, I love what I do. I am very passionate about music and I'm very passionate about performing, and, you know, I'm very grateful for the experiences and the people that I've come across at these open mics. You know, it's just so easy to make friends and build a community there. You'll find so many people who have so much like-minded interest to you, and there's just something that's just so encouraging and inspiring about it. You know, it's just something that I just wouldn't trade for anything. So that's it. Those are my personal tips for attending an open mic. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching the video. This is a lot of fun to make. I've never actually made a video like this, so this is a very fun and unique experience for me. Hopefully I get to make more videos like this somewhere down the track. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be on the lookout for more videos very soon. My name is Cynner. Stay out of trouble.